Welcome back to our second podcast of Chapter 2 of the book, Most Likely to Succeed, Preparing Our Kids for the Innovation Era by Tony Wagner and Ted Dentersmith. So I want to thank you for participating in this. This is an opportunity for students and adults who haven't had an opportunity to read the book to actually listen to us and hopefully be inspired to read it, or at least to be engaged in the ideas around the book, which is so critical to the work that we're trying to move forward in our adopted strategic coherence plan, which outlines these cross-cutting 21st century skills / competencies that are both academic and social emotional that you're going to use and you're going to need in your life, your work, your careers, just to live. Obviously for the adults, we're going to need those skills as well. Critical thinking and flexibility and adaptability is just as important for us as it is for you. So we're thrilled to have you here to continue this conversation. So I'll kick off with a question, but other than that, I hope that you all have questions and thoughts about this now that you've read. This is your second chapter. So before we start, can we go around the room and just introduce ourselves?
I'm Matthew Clark.
Matthew Scipione.
Nicholas Santangelo.
Michelle Gosh.
John Castellano.
Nikki Horler.
Emily Bakulima.
Julia Villani.
And Valerie Henning Piedmonte. One of the questions that intrigues me about this chapter is this whole notion of what's the purpose of education. So as you think about education, he lays this out, the authors lay this out on page 44. They talk about, 43 in particular, we're in the middle there, underneath the first paragraph. This is one image of education that was in 1893, long time ago. The purpose of education is to teach students low-level cognitive skills, train them to perform repetitive tasks quickly and error-free, and to eliminate all traces of creativity and innovation. That's one image. The other image, which is on page 44, right underneath the box there that described the two models, the 1893 model and the 21st century model. The purpose of education is to engage students with their passions and growing sense of purpose, teach them critical skills needed for career and citizenship, and inspire them to do their very best to make their world better. So what do you believe to be the purpose of education?
Like currently, right now?
Mm-hmm. As you experience it, or as you envision, like the best sort of example that you could think of?
Well, I would say that we definitely want our purpose to be kind of like this and engaging and intellectual learning, but I don't think that we're actually achieving that goal.
What do you think? What kind of goal? Like, so is it somewhere between 1893 and the 21st century? Like, what would it need to look like? Like, what would need to be different that you think, or anyone at this table? What do you think would need to make it become more like this second description on page 44?
Well, I'm just thinking, in general, maybe to stop focusing so much on so many tests and like right now just memorization and things like that, because that's what this book was really describing, and maybe just think about interacting with one another and knowing how to do that later on in life and problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Another way of doing that is you can give students a problem that has no specific solution to it, and it'll allow people to sort of branch off about different ways they would try and solve it. And that would also promote the 21st century idea of education.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? So what's the purpose of it? Is it to just, help you to get a job? Or help you to get into college? Or something else? Like, what's the purpose of an education?
Well, the purpose of education should be to prepare us for later in life and to make sure that we're capable people and that we can take care of ourselves, that we know how to survive in the real world. I'm not sure we're doing as good a job as we could. I think we focus too much on the grades, too much on the assessments, and I think that we're putting the hundreds ahead of learning about ourselves and about the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, schools are kind of just more about covering content rather than like trying to find all the stuff we discussed, like coming up with critical thinking skills and finding a passion.
What about that? Talk about that passion word, because that's not typically what you hear about. You don't hear, I never as a student, and no one ever, K-12 ever said, find your passion in life. I never heard that. What does that mean? And how do you connect it to your life now with students?
Well, I don't know, but I kind of like that passion, find your passion, because it gives you an open book and you can pretty much find what you're good at and what you like in your own way instead of trying to follow these guidelines that not everyone can go with.
Nor should they, right?
Yeah.
It's more inviting. It'll promote like more kind of thinking outside the box sort of solutions.
Is there anything that you have, any course that you've taken or any topic that you've studied or any question that any single staff member asked that got you thinking about your passion, or where you look back and say, hey, that really got me down this road where I'm interested in continuing to pursue?
Well, I already know what I want to do. Or I think I know what I want to do. I want to go into the education career. And
What part of that?
teacher, probably,
Of
for
what?
social studies or science.
It's pretty cool.
And what was I saying? Oh yeah, right. I think that if you have a good teacher and you really, even if you're like don't really like the subject, you can get through the class easier because the teacher will be helping you along the way. If the teacher's like gonna try and become your friend a little bit and help you work your way through, it'll be easier than just having a teacher that'll be like, okay, do this, do that, and do the work, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. What is everyone else's passion for? What would you say you love so much that you're going to pursue that in college or the world of work?
I have no idea.
It's okay.
Okay, so this is what is happening with me right now. I am junior. I have to start looking for college.
Uh-huh.
But I want to be a pilot is engineer, aeronautic engineer. And like the college in New York is so expensive.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, and I have to go so far.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
How far do you have to go? Like 6 years or 7 years of college?
6.
6 years.
Yeah, and my parents are like, Emily, like it doesn't matter. You have to do what you want to do,
Listen.
and
to
you
them.
will be and you will be happy when you are doing what you want to do.
That's great. So they're encouraging you. Forget about whether it's 6 years or
Mhm.
7 years. If you want to do that, you should do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
A pilot,
That's so cool.
engineer. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's so cool.
All right, Matthew. Not Matthew.
What? Nicholas.
Nicholas and Matthew.
Yes. There we go. I've always wanted to be a lawyer. It's just since 6th grade. I'm not exactly sure what sparked it, but I've always been interested. Like, I remember when the Casey Anthony trial was going on. I remember I was interested in that. And I've always just been interested in law and the process of it. So my parents support me, and they think it's a good idea, and I have a passion for it. So I've always wanted to do that, and that's what I'm thinking I'm gonna follow through with.
That's pretty cool.
You know what kind of lawyer you want to be? Like,
Well, criminal.
yeah.
I haven't decided whether I'm thinking about being a prosecutor.
Oh, guess what? Perry Mason's on 9 a.m. and 11.
There we go, Perry Mason. Got it. Yeah.
That's what Supreme Justice Sonia Sotomayor said inspired her as a student growing up as she watched Perry Mason.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Matthew, you mentioned a teacher, Matthew.
I've always been interested in the outdoors, so I don't know what I want to do in that field, but something where I'm not in an office.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I agree, I can see that.
So how do we go about developing passions in all of you,
Yes.
even separate from a career?
Mhm.
It might be a passion that it's something that you just want to do on a weekly basis or a daily basis, and something that really speaks to you that doesn't develop into
Mhm.
a career, but it makes you a better person. How do we go about doing that here?
In the school, I've always loved electives because it's not as structured from the state of what needs to be done, and they teach you skills they teach you skills that you want to know, because that's why you pick the class.
Mm-hmm.
It's not skills that you're required to take to graduate. And what was it? So if you're taking those courses for your own good,
Mhm.
you should probably pick the ones that you want to go into your career with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So you're saying it's enjoyable for everyone
Yeah.
that they get to pick what they're learning about.
mm-hmm. That's like kind of all you get to pick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to pick well.
If you want to do more of a hands-on kind of career, like a tech ed class or a metal shop class or automotive class,
Mhm.
that could be very useful. But I know most schools don't have that option.
It's becoming more important, which is what the authors take up later as, we moved away from it. I don't know if it was, I can't recall to what extent it was discussed in the first chapter, but, we have relegated career and technical education to kind of, how did the authors refer, just one step above juvenile delinquency or below. I mean, that it doesn't have a lot of importance in our society because we value those more academic, we've grown up as a system, as a society that values, going to the more elite or selective colleges and universities and not pursuing career and technical education. So we have, all of us, none of us, I don't know about you, the most that I can do under my car's hood is to put that liquid in for the windshield wiper.
Washer fluid.
That's all I can
Yeah.
do. That's all I can do. But hey, you get a lot of money if you can figure out the rest of that stuff underneath there.
Yeah, I know
You
how
figure
to
out a
do
lot of money, if you know plumbing, right?
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chefs, chefs
Carpenter.
are like millionaires, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Carpenter you can do a lot with.
A lot. So I wouldn't turn my nose up at those careers, but
It's hard work.
It's hard work, but that's one of the interesting parts of this whole narrative that they lay out for us about this innovation-driven era. That one of the things that was really interesting to me was, and I was thinking about what and I was applying this to now, to a pretty significant change that's about to occur in the high school with the schedule. That some people are afraid of, some people don't know a lot about. But if you think about it, it's the authors I think lay out kind of in my mind as I was reading this. I was thinking about this issue of how change occurs and how we can do more than just sort of tinker. On page 51, the authors talk about reform is not enough. More college level courses are not enough. Our system is obsolete, and it needs reimagining. I think that's pretty significant, that it isn't more standards, it isn't more college courses, it's something more dramatic, if you will, that's going to change this. That it isn't, the poor schools, the wealthy schools, where you live, that even in some of these schools that, or districts that where, there's a lot of wealth, that still doesn't mean that they are innovative. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. So what do you think about that in relationship to what's happening now with the schedule? If these authors have laid out this notion that, we shouldn't be racing to be the best test takers. We shouldn't be racing to be, Hong Kong or Singapore or whoever has like the greatest math scores. That's not the race we should be in. We should be focusing on who's going to become the most innovative. So apply that to what's underway with the movement to make the schedule one where that could potentially happen. And if you don't know a lot about it, you know, you can come to one of the forums that's happening. But based upon think about this. Why would we be reading this book if we were going to do something damaging to the schedule? Like, would it make sense for us to go down this route here with this, you know, this book that talks about the innovation-driven era to limit your choices?
Or why would we read this book and not do anything different?
Right. All right. Think about it. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking about?
Well,
So much of the information that you've received is inaccurate information, right? I know people have heard pieces. So right now, we are looking at 46-minute periods. You'd have first period every single day, second period every single day. You'd have all of your classes every single day, no blocks. We'd have a 30-minute lunch and a 30-minute mini course.
that's not what I heard.
I know.
That's totally different
It's
from what
not
I
even close.
That principle is right.
Yeah. So
This
that's
folder is
what the
right.
schedule is looking like. So you'd have a half-hour lunch, half-hour mini course, where you'd be able to follow your passion, whatever it looks like.
And there would be like different options for the mini course.
Yeah. Demo Congress is going to come up with some options for us. Not us, but you guys. Straight regular.
Do we lose our elective?
Nope.
I'm also
So
just
we still have
wondering.
9 periods.
Nope.
No, it's 8.
8
Oh,
to get the additional
Technically an
minutes.
8 period.
sorry.
But there's labs that
Yeah.
disappear, like a 9th grade English lab. You know, everyone takes it in English. That disappears. So if you don't have that, then you can take something. If not all of the science courses have a lab attached to it, then you could take something. Some of your study halls. I pulled up a schedule today where a girl had 5 study halls. 5 period.
A
That
day?
was my
In one
face.
day?
One day. I'm not really sure
Sounds
what
pretty
she was
pointless.
taking. It's pretty pointless. Why would you show up to school?
I wouldn't.
Right. That's the problem.
Well, no, I probably would, but not
But
because I want.
So it reduces a lot
Is
of our
it
study
because
halls.
she didn't have any more classes
No,
to take?
you would think that's the case. I thought so too, but no.
It's just like study halls.
To do what?
And we're
I
a
can't
system
even
that
get
would
myself a
permit
study
that.
hall.
But if you have all these study halls and no work, what are you doing in the study halls? Nothing.
That's
Right.
why, well, that's why we're trying to
That is the problem.
move that structure so that it doesn't exist. And that if the system doesn't know, like, this is the world. I mean, there isn't a day, I don't know about you, but there isn't a day that I don't hear anything about, I don't hear something about driverless cars. Every day I hear something about driverless cars. I
scary.
hear that the technology of, which is really fascinating, of the driverless cars. I mean, it won't end with just the driverless cars. The whole infrastructure has to change, so roads have to be formatted, if you will, so that the cars can talk to the roads, so that the cars can talk to the signs, so that the cars can talk to the landmarks. You can't have 5 study hall, a 5 study hall schedule and be successful in that environment, right? Somehow or another. So we can't have a 39-minute period and be successful, be competitive with other high schools, competitive with the colleges that you go into when you don't have enough time to spend time even doing that, right? You can't. I mean, 39 minutes, that's like the high school I went to, 39 minutes. But then they had that other version of purpose of education,
Oh.
like drone us,
Yeah.
like bore the heck out of us so that we, just sat there and listened, that kind of environment. But so what's your thinking now that you've heard the facts from your principal, Ms. Horler? What's your thinking now about the need for a change? And the schedule's only the beginning. That's just, that's like having the innovation lab, the innovation learning center. It's pretty, but we have to do different
It's
things
gorgeous.
in there.
I was just in there. I really
Isn't
like
it gorgeous?
Yeah, it is nice.
So I have another question. Besides I totally don't agree with whoever had the 5 study hall thing. But then what about if you had like 1 study hall? What's wrong with having the 1 study hall?
You could.
You could do that.
You can still have study halls?
Sure. And this
That's
just
great.
this
With the new
just
schedule, we can
eliminates.
still have study goals.
Yeah, sure. This
You
just
won't get
eliminates
five.
some
No,
study
yeah.
hall. It does. It
I'm
can't.
not
You
looking
can't
for that.
eliminate all.
Where are
of the
these
study
rumors
halls.
coming
Other
from
things.
that were
Yeah, you
like
can-
drowning me
Like we're
in my
getting
own
rid
thoughts?
of courses.
I was like, oh my
Like a
goodness.
lot of the
You
stuff
can
I've
still
been
take
told
chorus,
doesn't match up what
ROTC.
anyone's saying.
Doesn't.
None of those. None of the electives have changed. None of that
What?
has changed.
Well, I'm relieved to hear the facts.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Just
There you
because I
go.
know for me
Yeah,
personally,
because now I'm
I've heard
good
I'm
now.
like a very busy person, but it usually all
Mhm.
consists of school and sports. So like the study hall is definitely helpful for me
Yeah.
to like get my homework done so I can go to bed at a reasonable hour.
But how many do you have a day?
I just have one every other day, so I
Right.
don't really have one.
See, and that would still work.
Mhm.
That would
I mean,
still
that's
work.
that's really not a problem. And then you also have that mini course, a 30-minute mini course, where that course could be, you opt to sit in the innovation, learning center with your headphones on, reading a book.
Mhm.
Isn't that a valid use of your time?
Mhm.
It is.
It's great to read books.
Or that you decided that, you wanted to sit in on like 15 minutes or 20 minutes of a MOOC, which is those massive open source online courses. And maybe there's a famous criminal attorney who's lecturing during that time.
Or podcast.
I thought you were going to
Podcast.
stop at
Listen
criminal.
to
I'm
it.
like, what?
No.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge,
Saving
it's
those
criminal
up for
attorney.
next
I
year.
thought you were going to stop at criminal.
But think about this as well, because I think the other part of this, remember, it's not enough to change the deck chairs on the Titanic, right? It's not enough to just move the furniture around, make things look beautiful. But these authors talk about, it's more than that, that the system is obsolete. So then how would you handle, or what do you think needs to happen to deal with the abundance of homework that you have? Like, how else could homework be managed where you weren't home, doing things that are in contrast to what these authors are talking about?
No homework.
No, you can't have no
You
homework.
can't
You can't
wipe
do that.
that.
It won't work.
But what would it
But-
look
Well,
like?
that I disagree with. I think that there could be no homework, but
If we manage our
Well, but then we'd have to have
Yes, exactly.
very long periods to
Well-
get everything.
No, not long. We just have to make
Well,
the
we'd have to
most
have
effective
longer
use of our
periods.
time.
well, think about it. We're extending the periods, aren't we? So if we can structure them correctly and get the right work done, and if we can all focus, which is a hard thing to do. Trust me, I'm never focusing. If we could all focus in those classes and get the work done, and then make use of our time when we have the mini period or a lunch or a study hall, then we don't need homework. Sometimes I find it pointless because I'm just sitting there
That's what I was gonna say. If you
and
can,
I don't find use out of it.
right, if you can
Yes.
minimalize the useless work and give more purposeful and
There you
impactful
go.
work
Oh, let me
to,
write
like,
that down.
to
That's
like
so true.
make sure that you're using your time wisely. Because sometimes I do a worksheet or a packet or something. I'm like, wow, this is useless. And I go into school next day. I'm like, did you do that packet? And everyone's like, yeah, kind of. And then we don't do anything with it. And then the day goes by, and I could have spent that time doing other homework that's more purposeful that I needed to get done the same day.
Mm-hmm. Or read a book, or
I also-
Anything that's more
Yeah.
useful with
useful
your
in
time.
that.
I feel like if we, because a lot of teachers use homework as like a study, kind of like a study thing. Okay, you go home and practice it. But I feel like if we just did that in class and we made sure that we got that done and that we focused on, whatever it was we were learning, I would learn better because then I get to go home. I have my time with my family, my dinner, my after school sports, and, sleep and whatnot. And I'm not drowning myself in these worksheets, which happens way too often, I think.
You're right. If we could make more effective use of the time in class, we wouldn't have need
Yeah.
for majority of the homework we do.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe.
If we could cut down
Yeah.
by like an hour,
Or
be
two.
helpful, or two,
Yeah.
or two.
So is that one of those obsolete parts of the system that needs to be looked at the same time that we're looking at passion and developing passion and using our class time differently and doing things that force you to pull together the different skills to apply to solve problems and think critically. So is homework one of those areas that has to be looked at as well? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
Mhm. So any other final thoughts as we close chapter 2?
I'm good.
I'm just excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
I hope that this really does turn into our thoughts and our thinking. Because then I think it would be like an excellent junior and senior year for me if we could do
Yes.
that.
I think it's going to you know why I think it's going to be that way is because it has to be. You know, there are other kinds of things that are going to compete with public education. You know, that you know will not make this necessarily an example of what people are going to fight to keep. You know, why would you want to sit in a classroom and have someone write, you know, things on whether it's a smart board or, you know, overheads or projected stuff on a screen, and you never discussed it or you never tried to solve problems with it? You were never asked to do anything with it, but just to kind of take it in and like regurgitate
and then
it,
put
right?
a test. Yeah.
So that's not going to be competitive. I mean, that's not going to keep a system competitive. So for the survival of public education, we have to change things as well. So it has to be that we create terrific freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years, and K-8 years, you know, as you march through the system. But we absolutely are committed to making strides towards preparing you to live, work, and learn in this innovation-driven era. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next month.